All right, guys, finally have my hands on the Jack Mason Strat-O-Timer. Big thanks to Peter and the gang over there for sending this over. They did send this over with the intention of me keeping it. So again, big thanks for that as well. So let's take a closer look at this watch and see how well they did. This is kind of like Jack Mason getting into the enthusiast side of things. You know, they've had some great designs in the past, and if you look, I think there's some phenomenal looking watches, but they just haven't resonated with the enthusiast level of the watch community, and that's where this one fits in. This one's definitely resonating. I was able to talk to them, Peter, before the launch, and then I met up with some of his co-workers at the wind-up show in New York and checked it out there. There's 3 colorways on this launch, this being the more recent one, and thankfully this one was reserved for me because it has the pop of orange on there. I like that. There's also a blue dial with like a Pepsi bezel, blue and red bezel, and then there's like a root beer one which has really nice warm tones to it. So I think these 3 first colorways are really good contenders for this price segment. The price is basically $1,000. It's $999. If you go to the website, I think you might be able to apply like a 10% coupon. I don't know. When I went there, some things popped up. You give me your email, all that stuff, and you might get a discount. They're on pre-order right now, snapshot in time. This is February. I think if you get them now, they're shipping in March or something. But let's get into the watch. Okay, so I measure the watch. Bezel is basically the same width as the watch. It is 41 millimeter. The lug to lug is a 47.2 millimeter. You can see they're non-drilled, and they don't need to be drilled. And I'll tell you why in a moment. But high polished side, but it's kind of, fully beveled out. It is a bit of a smudge magnet, but I'll try to keep it clean as I can so you guys can see, well, my reflection for one. But thickness with that boxed sapphire crystal is 13.47 millimeters, so 13.5 millimeter. But if you measure the case without that boxed sapphire, it's only 12 millimeter thick. And oftentimes when you have these thicker crystals or boxed crystals, they don't really add to the wearing thickness experience, if that makes sense. It just is more of a visual thing, more so than it is like how thick it is on your wrist. I think most avid watch wearers will agree with me on that. And that's pretty much been my experience on most cases. The lug width is 20 millimeter. This 7-link bracelet tapers down to 16 millimeter. Nice, good taper to it. You have screw pins here, and they do have thread lock on them already, and they are tight. So that's been my experience with the couple that I've handled. So if you do pick one of these up, make sure you have the right screwdriver, make sure you have the right block and everything like that, and good optics. And take your time, or you will, cause problems. Or just take it somewhere and have it done. You have a nice folding clasp with a little verbiage there for you. It says, "Be your best." And it is fairly flat when it folds over. So keep that in mind too. It is a little bit wider, so if you have a small wrist, it might be a little weird. It wears great on my 7 1/4. I'll show you that in a moment. You have a sign clasp, double pushers with some sloping to them so they don't snag on anything, very smooth. You just push those in and they drop right in. You have 2 posts. So when you squeeze that, you're actually moving the post, and it is like a double security, if you will. You're also going to notice right away that you have on the fly micro adjust, probably up to about 20 millimeter. I mean, it is all of the clasp is adjustable. It's a little rough feeling, but I'm assuming that will smooth out over time. But I mean, you're really only going to move it like 1 or 2 positions anyway. But great clasp. You do have a display case back. The case back is, let me zoom in a little bit here as we take a look at this stuff. Excuse my thumb. As you look there, you can see assembled in the USA. That is designed in Texas, assembled in the USA. And you'll see some other ties to Texas, obviously. Very proud of that fact, and that as they should be. So, but you see you have 4 screws holding that case back down. You have quick release spring bars on this bracelet. I did remove the bracelet and try to put a strap onto this watch, and the lug, where the holes are to how the case and lugs are, don't plan on putting like a leather strap or rubber strap or NATO or anything like that on here, you might be able to get a NATO in there, but it's just too tight to the case. So pretty much plan on wearing it on the bracelet unless they come out with some, and it's a high probability that they would because of what they're trying to do. They might come up with like a fitted FKM rubber strap or something. I'm just speculating. I don't know anything on that front, but I'll ask Peter. It is a 200-meter water resist. You do have a screw down crown. And if we take a closer look at the dial, this one has a beautiful silver dial, nice applied indices, and then you kind of have like a blacked out handset for that contrast for easy legible reading of the watch. You have a framed date window at 3 o'clock, of course your GMT hand right there, and then you have your seconds hand spinning. And if you look at the balance on the seconds hand, it actually has like a little kind of a red, white, and blue, but that's again a tie to the Texas state flag, as is their applied logo. Up near the 12 o'clock position is a circle with a star, again, all tying into that Texas pride that this brand has. Now, the bezel on this one is a sapphire insert. You have orange on the bottom, black up top, and it is a proper, very well done click, 48 click indeed, and it is pretty smooth and consistent in both directions. So nice little fun fidget spinner for you if you want, or if you want to track a different time zone quickly with that. Now, like another watch that I reviewed earlier, there is not the 24-hour markers on the dial. There was already a lot going on the dial, and I think that was a design choice they made. So it's not quite as easy to track 3 time zones, but you can. I mean, if you know, just like you can tell the time with a minute and an hour hand without, you know, all the Arabics. The same applies to the 24-hour hand. You just treat it as a 24-hour dial, just like you would with not seeing. I mean, I know that's 9 o'clock, right? So you would just train yourself to know that that is 10 o'clock on the GMT, right? So once you get here, that's noon, and then you go into the PM. So you just, the more you use it, the more that will make sense to you. And then once that is applied, then you can definitely track a 3rd time zone easily. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but most people don't track 3 time zones anyway. So nice 6.5 millimeter screw down crown. And then the best part about this one that a lot of people are going to like, besides the look, is it is using the Miyota 9075 movement. So of course you unscrew it, you can wind the watch. It is automatic, but you can wind it to get it started. And then in that first position, it's not going to move that hand or the date, it's actually going to move the hour hand. So this is a true traveler's GMT. And that is also how you change the date. I don't know if you've seen that. That's how you change the date. I mean, you just kind of rotate it around or whatever. It's not a big deal. Some people freak out about it. And then to set the time with the GMT, you would pull it all the way out, hacking the movement, and then you could set the time. But it is nice to be able to travel and have that quick adjust forward or backward. I like to go to the West Coast, so sometimes I go backward 3 hours. And then you're good to go. And you can keep your home time on that GMT hand. So, and then where you're visiting on that one. So pretty cool function of that. All right, let's pop this on wrist so we can see what that looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. I did take out 3 links, 2 from the 6 o'clock, because I always like to try to keep this one shorter. That'll keep the watch from trying to rotate that way. It'll actually kind of inherently pull it this way, which keeps it more centered on wrist, just a little trick. And then I just took in the on the fly micro adjust, and it fits great. So there you go. That's what it looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. Looks, wears, feels great. I think they nailed proportions and design on this thing. And of course, being able to utilize that movement just makes it a very cool, affordable. I know $1,000 is still a lot of money, but it's a really good example of what we really want in the watch enthusiast community, I think. So I look forward to seeing more colorways of this one, and I look forward to seeing what else Jack Mason does, because I know Peter's actually the designer over there, and I've looked at some of his past designs, and I talked to him pretty extensively. I'm pretty excited to see what he comes up with for the future. I mean, we got to see how this one goes, and then we'll go from there. Let's give this a quick blast with the UV light. Not really needed because it is using BGW9, 7 layers of it, in fact, and C3X1 for, should have 2 different colors, or if it's just on different models. This one looks like it's pretty much all C3X1. I don't see any blue. This thing is just bright and bold, just like we would expect from a micro brand. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.